Welcome to Mrs. Flegel's Grade 5 Science class. Today we're going to look at how buoyancy can be useful when we're separating solids. Buoyancy is the ability for certain solids or objects to float in water. What you're needing for today's experiment is some sand, some rice, and some peat moss, which you can probably get at a local garden store. If you can't get peat moss, you can try in your house to find things that you think might float when you're doing this experiment. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the sand and the rice and we're going to mix them together to see what happens. The sand in here, and we put some rice in here, mix it all up as best we can, and then we take a bit of water, which we have in a cup, and we pour the water in. And if you can see, all the rice and all the sand stays at the bottom. So neither of these substances are buoyant. So in this case, water is not very useful in helping to separate these solids. The next two that we're going to try are rice. And we already know that rice isn't buoyant because we just did it with that one. And peat moss. Give that a shot. Doesn't really mix very well either, but we'll give it a shot. Grab my water, and we'll add the water and see what happens. And take a look at what happens. We have the rice sitting at the bottom. Now some of the rice has gotten caught up in the peat moss and is floating a little bit, but if you give it time, it will sink down. And we've got the peat moss floating on top. So water is useful in separating the rice and the peat moss because the peat moss is very buoyant and floats and the rice doesn't. So the inference we can make on this is that if you have two substances you're trying to separate and one is buoyant and one is not, then using water to separate those solids is a useful way to do it.